Chapter 24. How Much Does a Bear Weigh? Claudia was kneeling in front of the family altar when the boys stormed in. Since Xanthippus had seemed loath to even hint to them what suddenly possessed him, they had left him mulling over his mysterious figures. They had gone to get Vinicius and Claudia and guide them to Lucas's house. At the forum they were caught in an enormous crowd and nearly crushed to death. The bacchanalia was in full swing. Swarms of citizens, men and women, many with garlands of vine leaves on their heads, pushed and crowded around the vendors' booths. The merchants were shouting themselves hoarse in praise of their wares. The smells of grilled meat and sausages, onions, fresh rolls, and roasted chestnuts filled the air. Clowns, grotesquely made up and wearing pointed hats, reeled around on stilts, bawling out bawdy songs. Many children sat on ponies decorated with colored feathers, and they recklessly forced themselves through the crowds. Everywhere dogs leaped and yelped. On the speaker's platform at the foot of the Temple of Jupiter was a band. Trumpets blared, flutes trilled, and bronze cymbals banged together with a crash. The noise was so deafening that Flavius had to plug his ears with his hands. The one sour note in the whole celebration was a black thundercloud that rose threateningly behind the Janiculum hill. Now and then streaks of lightning darted fiercely across the sky. "All these people have gone mad!" Rufus roared, in order to make himself heard. He was furious because everybody was having a good time, while he and his friends from Xanthus' school were fearful for the lives of their friends, Caius and Claudia. Mucius, though, was delighted. "This maelstrom of people is made to order for us," he said. "Vinicius, Claudia, and Caius can easily be lost in this crowd, but they must put garlands on their heads too." The guard at the door of the Villa Vinicius let them in this time without a word. He just stared at them absently. The other slaves too looked at them with haggard faces. Their future was gloomy indeed if their master was to be exiled. Once in the main hall, the boys waited for Claudia to finish her devotions. Lysis stood beside her with her head bowed. They were alone. "Claudia!" Antonius cried as they got to their feet at last. "Quickly! You must cut your hair. From here on you're going to be a boy." Claudia spun around. Her eyes were wet with tears, and she looked pale and careworn. She wore a plain dark-colored tunic and slippers. The artfully piled curls of yesterday now were pathetically disarranged. "Why must I be a boy?" she asked wearily. "We're running away immediately," Caius said. "Where's father? He must come with us." Claudia sat down. She threw her hands over her face and sobbed bitterly. "You've come too late," she finally managed to say. Then, overcome with grief, she could not go on. "Why is it too late?" Caius asked, suddenly panicky. "Young master," Lysis said, "Tribune Lucius Octavius Varenus is here, accompanied by 2 higher officers." "What do they want?" Caius asked, but he knew only too well what they wanted. "The emperor has arrived sooner than expected. He's been in Rome since this morning, and has sent the tribune and the officers to arrest our master, you and Claudia," Lysis answered. Caius turned pale. His friends were at a loss for words. Thunder rumbled far off in the distance. All at once a louder thunder sounded behind the hanging in front of the vestibule. "Let me through, you pig-headed nincompoop!" somebody bellowed, and Xanthippus tore into the room like a god bent on revenge. "Master Xanthus!" Claudia exclaimed incredulously. "Xanthippus!" the boys all stammered. "Where's your father, Claudia?" Xanthippus panted. He was absolutely winded. He had run all the way like a marathon runner. "My father is being arrested by a tribune and 2 officers," Caius said. "Nonsense and idiocy," Xanthippus said. "Get your father in here at once. I know where the gold is." Claudia sprang up. "You know where the gold is?" she repeated, her voice quivering. "Don't ask questions. Go get your father," Xanthippus thundered. Claudia skimmed across the hall to the door of her father's room. "Father!" she cried. "Father, come out at once! Master Xanthus is here, and he knows where the gold is." The door was flung open, and Senator Vinicius appeared. A big man, he was somewhat on the heavy side. His hair was white and his eyebrows black, features that had always greatly impressed the boys. Now he was pale but composed. He walked quickly to Xanthippus. The tribune, Lucius Octavius Varenus, and the two officers followed, all armed with long swords. Tiro emerged behind them with the centurion Turnus, commanding officer of the Praetorian Guard. "Did I hear correctly, Master Xanthus?" Vinicius asked. "You know where the gold is?" "I figured it out just 10 minutes ago," Xantippus replied, still breathing hard. "Please sit down, Master Xanthus." The senator pushed up a chair for him. He was an educated man and treated the famous mathematician Xanthos, his son's teacher, with great respect. Xantippus sat down. He panted, then continued with his explanation. "Ever since Udo, when first telling us about Paulino, mentioned the bear and the cage, I've gone on turning that story over in my mind." "You are speaking of the brave slave who rescued my son from the catacombs, Master Xanthus?" "I'm speaking of the bear and the cage," Xantippus grumbled. "This is the first I've heard about a bear in a cage," Vinicius said. "What about it?" "No more than that the 100,000 gold pieces are hidden in the cage." "What?" Vinicius said. "How do you know?" "The cage has a double floor, and the 10 million sesterces can be found in the space between. The reason the bear is there is that nobody will enter the cage." Vinicius's eyes widened. "How did you arrive at the notion that the gold is in the cage?" he asked, still reluctant to believe in miracles. "I just told you. I figured it out. I posed a few questions and juggled around some figures. Udo was in Germania when 24 legionnaires lifted the cage with the bear in it onto a wagon. There were 12 oxen harnessed to the wagon." "I said at the time that it wasn't a bear but a mammoth," Antonius piped up. "Quiet," Xantippus said. "I forbid any more interruptions. Question number 1 I asked myself was as follows. How much does a bear weigh? Answer. A fully grown bear weighs no more than 400 pounds. Question number 2. What does a cage weigh? Answer. It weighs 200 pounds at most. Good. Altogether that makes 600 pounds. Question 3. How many legionnaires would it take to lift approximately 600 pounds onto a wagon? Answer. 6. Any legionnaire worth the name is capable of lifting 100 pounds. Question number 4. How many oxen are needed to pull a wagon with a load of 600 pounds? Exactly 4. Question number 5. Why then, by Pluto, Poseidon, and the Furies, must 24 legionnaires lift the bear and the cage onto the wagon? There is only one explanation. The bear and the cage weighed not 600, but 3,100 pounds. Vinicius and the others listened with growing astonishment. Nevertheless, Vinicius was confused, and took the liberty of interrupting Xantippus. 3,100 pounds, you say, Master Xanthus? How do you explain this disparity in weight? I'm coming to that, Xantippus grumbled. Now, here at last we come to my figures. A. 1 gold piece weighs a 40th part of a pound. B. Therefore 100,000 pieces of gold weigh 2,500, Vinicius shouted, thunderstruck. Excellent, Senator. You are a marvelous calculator, said Xantippus appreciatively. Therefore, including the cage and the bear, that makes 3,100 pounds. According to the laws of logic and mathematical proofs, this then is the indisputable fact. Paulino hid the gold in the cage and had it carted away. Jupiter! Vinicius exclaimed. Master Xanthos, I am at a loss for words to thank you. Claudia, who had scarcely dared to breathe because of the tension, rushed over to Vinicius. "Oh, father, father!" she sobbed. "Master Xanthos has saved our lives." She was crying again, but this time with joy. Caius smiled with happiness and relief from ear to ear. Lucius Octavius Varenus was delighted too. As a close friend of Vinicius, he had obeyed with heavy heart the emperor's order to arrest the senator, Claudia, and Caius. "At last now I too understand what Paulino meant," said Centurion Turnus. "When Paulino was lying on the ground, I leaned over him and said, 'Confess where the gold is, you traitor.' 'It's behind bars,' he said. His last words, the death rattle already in his throat. Now I know he meant the bars on the cage." Vinicius had suddenly become doubtful. "But where is the cage, Master Xanthus?" "Udo told us that too," Xantippus replied, pulling on his beard with satisfaction. The cage with the bear in it is in the zoological garden here in Rome, in the park of Sallust. Why Paulino had the gold taken there, I don't know. All I know is that the bear is guarding it like the hound of hell, Cerberus. Stop! Mucius shouted wildly. Everyone was brought up short. Only Xantippus was not. See here, Mucius, he said. What do you mean by this outburst? What utter lack of discipline? Forgive me, Master Xanthus, Mucius sputtered. The cage with the bear is not in the zoological garden.